Wait, what did Blake Lively really just do that the internet is absolutely melting down over the latest jaw-dropping move by one of Hollywood's most picture-perfect stars? Known for her elegance, charm, and carefully polished public image, Blake has stunned fans, critics, and even longtime allies with a move so unexpected, so bold, and so high-risk it has turned the entertainment world upside down. We're not just talking about another PR stunt. No, this is bigger, much bigger. In the middle of a heated legal firestorm with actor and producer Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively has just crossed a line many never thought she would, whether it's an act of desperation, strategic brilliance, or the unraveling of a public persona under pressure. What Blake just did has sparked a full-blown media circus, and no one can look away. From explosive court filings to aggressive legal maneuvers, targeting content creators, and even eerie silence from friends like Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds, this situation is spiraling fast. And now questions are swirling. Is Blake trying to control the narrative? Or has she completely lost control of it? Is this the move that ends her career or reignites her power in ways no one saw coming? This is more than just celebrity drama. This is a real-time implosion or evolution of a Hollywood legacy in the making. Get ready, because once you hear what Blake just did, you won't be able to unsee it. Let's break it down. At one point in time, Blake Lively was untouchable. She was the golden girl of the red carpet, the charming star of Gossip Girl, who had gracefully evolved into a respected figure in film, fashion, and philanthropy. With Ryan Reynolds at her side, she represented the perfect Hollywood pairing: stylish, funny, relatable, and grounded. But slowly the cracks started to show. Whispers in industry circles hinted that things weren't as polished behind closed doors. Insiders spoke of growing tensions on film sets, vague friction with longtime friends, and even tighter control over her public image. Still, nothing concrete emerged until the legal battle with Justin Baldoni began. Initially framed as a dispute over production rights and behind-the-scenes miscommunications, the case quickly ballooned into something much more explosive. Documents were unsealed, texts were leaked, allegations flew, and all of a sudden, the Blake that fans thought they knew, kind, clever, quietly powerful, was being questioned. But here's where it gets strange. Instead of laying low or letting her legal team take the lead, Blake doubled down. She made cryptic social media posts. She gave off-the-cuff answers in interviews. She appeared at events smiling wide, but insiders claimed she was deeply rattled. By early summer, reports started emerging that multiple creators, including podcasters, commentary YouTubers, and even legacy media names, were receiving subpoenas connected to Blake's team. Legal analysts warned that if true, this would mark an aggressive shift in strategy, one that could backfire spectacularly in the court of public opinion. And then came the move. What she did, whether by impulse or calculation, would not only dominate headlines but also fundamentally reshape how the world sees her. As court filings mounted and media outlets began circling like sharks around the unfolding legal disaster, Blake Lively made a decision that left even her most seasoned PR advisors stunned. On what seemed like an ordinary Thursday morning, Blake released a personal statement, not through her legal team, not via an exclusive with a major outlet, but directly to her 40 million followers on Instagram. The caption was brief, vague, and yet somehow deeply pointed. It read, "Sometimes silence isn't strength, sometimes it's survival." And with that, she attached a photo, a black and white image of her walking alone into a courthouse, head held high. The post was instantly dissected by fans and critics alike. Within minutes, #BlakeSpeaks began trending on X, formerly Twitter. Instagram Reels were flooded with reactions, and within an hour, several prominent creators uploaded live breakdowns of what they believed this image really meant. Some said it was a cry for help. Others saw it as a challenge, a subtle jab at those accusing her of manipulation, control, or worse. And some speculated it was a signal to Ryan Reynolds, who had remained eerily quiet on the matter for weeks. But the real story wasn't in the post itself, it was in what followed. According to multiple verified sources close to the case, Blake's team sent out a flurry of cease and desist letters just hours after the post went live. These weren't vague warnings, they were detailed legal threats, targeting commentary YouTubers, podcast hosts, and even certain entertainment reporters who had shared internal speculation about her alleged role in suppressing evidence during the discovery phase of the Justin Baldoni case. This move raised eyebrows across legal circles. Why make such a public, emotional post, only to simultaneously unleash a wave of private legal intimidation behind the scenes? The contradiction was impossible to ignore, and it only fueled further curiosity. Some believed this was a play for control. With the narrative spiraling out of her hands, perhaps Blake was attempting to reclaim it on her own terms. Others thought it was emotional, that she felt betrayed by the media she had once carefully courted and was now lashing out in every direction possible. Then a second twist hit. One of the targeted creators, a mid-sized YouTube commentator with a reputation for investigative-style videos, revealed that Blake's legal team hadn't just sent a cease and desist, they had included a subpoena for their unedited video footage and any email correspondence referencing Blake or the case. The internet lit up. This was no longer just about a Hollywood feud. This was about whether a celebrity could silence creators simply for talking about public court proceedings and newsworthy content. Freedom of speech was suddenly the headline. News outlets like Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, and BuzzFeed News began reaching out for interviews. The creator refused to back down and stated publicly if Blake Lively wants to come after small creators, then maybe she has more to hide than she's letting on. For someone who had built her brand on being relatable, Blake's actions were being viewed as dangerously aggressive. Memes flooded the internet with people joking that Gossip Girl has become the gossip police, while others wondered aloud whether Blake was on the verge of a full-on media implosion. Meanwhile, inside Hollywood, the mood shifted noticeably. Sources claimed that several of Blake's long-standing industry allies began distancing themselves quietly. A notable director who once cast Blake in a major studio feature reportedly pulled out of discussions for a follow-up project. Another anonymous producer told Deadline, "No one wants to be part of this chaos, especially when it's all over." A case she could have walked away from 6 months ago. Even more damning, people began pointing to a series of past interviews in which Blake had spoken about accountability and listening to criticism. These sound bites were now being reposted everywhere with captions like, "Is this what accountability looks like?" Still, in the midst of all this chaos, there were defenders. A few loyal fans argued that Blake was under unimaginable pressure, that anyone facing that level of public scrutiny might lash out or try to protect their reputation. A celebrity lawyer on TikTok stated, legally speaking, she has every right to subpoena creators who she believes are spreading misinformation, even if it appears heavy-handed. But even he admitted that the optics were disastrous. What made matters worse was the fact that Justin Baldoni had remained relatively silent, allowing the storm to swirl entirely around Blake. His silence wasn't passive. It was strategic, and it was working. Because while Blake's every move was being analyzed, mocked, or challenged, Justin appeared calm, centered, and above the chaos. In interviews, when asked about the case, he would simply say, "The truth will come out in court." That single sentence gained him a quiet kind of moral high ground, a stark contrast to Blake's increasingly reactive behavior. And then the most shocking development of all occurred. Late one evening, a new batch of court documents was quietly uploaded to the public docket. In them, Blake's team had filed a motion to seal a key set of discovery materials, claiming they contained private and sensitive communications not meant for public consumption. The opposing counsel fired back almost immediately, arguing that these materials were critical to understanding the timeline and intent behind specific actions taken by Ms. Lively and her associates. Legal analysts pounced on the filings. Some said it was routine. Others claimed that it looked like a desperate attempt to prevent further damaging information from going public, information that could further harm Blake's credibility both in court and in the press. By the next morning, screenshots of the redacted documents were being posted online. Hashtags like #SealTheTruth and #LetItAllOut started trending. And once again, Blake found herself at the center of a storm that she simply couldn't control. This wasn't just a PR crisis anymore, it was a full-blown unraveling. For years, Blake Lively had managed to craft an image that was nearly bulletproof. Stylish, successful, soft-spoken, and smart, she was the Hollywood darling who didn't play messy games. But now it was all coming apart. And as more creators, fans, and industry players began to speak up, one uncomfortable question lingered in the air: what else was she willing to do to protect that image? As the dust from Blake Lively's shocking legal moves began to settle, barely, the fallout spread further than anyone could have predicted. While the public remained locked onto every new development, Hollywood's internal response became colder, quieter, and much more brutal. What had started as whispers turned into full-blown avoidance. Sources close to high-level executives began leaking subtle but significant details. Meetings once scheduled with Blake's reps were being pushed indefinitely. Film projects she had once been attached to, including to major streaming ventures, were suddenly under review. The message was clear: people were backing away fast. Perhaps most telling was the sudden silence from her closest allies. Blake's inner circle, once a carefully curated constellation of celebrity power players, Taylor Swift, Ryan Reynolds, Gigi Hadid, and others, had now seemingly fractured. Not a single one of them had publicly defended her amid the chaos. Not even a vague show of support through Instagram likes or subtle statements, it was deafening, especially when compared to previous controversies, where they had each publicly rallied around one another with fierce loyalty. But this wasn't just a bad press week. This was something deeper, a slow-motion collapse of Blake's trust. Network in an industry that feeds on image leverage and social capital. Insiders say Taylor Swift was particularly rattled by Blake's legal strategy, especially after reports surfaced that content creators were being subpoenaed for commentary. That included references to their former friendship, though Taylor hadn't made any direct public comments. Speculation soared after she posted a cryptic lyric on her stories, "All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put her back together again." The internet exploded and fans immediately took it as a subtle poetic distancing. Then came the late-night comedy reaction. In a monologue that would go viral within hours, a popular late-night host made Blake Lively the punchline of a bit about rich people who can't take criticism. Without naming her directly, the joke was unmistakable. Imagine suing people for reading your own court filings like, "Girl, it's public record. What's next?" Sending subpoenas to Wikipedia. The audience roared and clips of the segment flooded TikTok and YouTube. It was brutal. It was mainstream, and it was something Blake couldn't spin. Legal commentators piled on, noting that while celebrities often take measures to protect their privacy, few had gone as far as Blake in terms of perceived overreach. One former federal prosecutor remarked during a CNN panel, "There's a line between protecting your reputation and appearing retaliatory." Unfortunately, her strategy, whether intentional or not, risks crossing that line. And still there was more. Just days later, a series of anonymous blind items began circulating online. These items, long considered a kind of Hollywood whisper network, all suggested the same disturbing pattern: that Blake's behind-the-scenes behavior over the past year had grown increasingly erratic. Stories of explosive arguments, impulsive decisions, and fractured professional relationships painted a picture of someone trying desperately to stay in control. Worse yet, one item hinted that a former staffer of Blake's had quietly spoken to legal counsel about a potential workplace issue, though no names, dates, or accusations were disclosed. While unverified, the post went viral, sparking a new round of headlines that only further damaged her already fragile public standing. Amid this chaos, fans were left stunned and conflicted. The same people who had idolized Blake for her fashion, wit, and marriage to Ryan Reynolds were now openly questioning how much of her public persona had been curated versus authentic. Reddit threads and fan forums filled with users saying things like, "I used to think she was the one Hollywood star who had it all together. Now I'm not so sure." Others felt betrayed, as if her attempts to control public narratives went against the very values she once claimed to embody. And yet one detail made everything feel even stranger: Ryan Reynolds himself had gone completely dark. For a couple that once delighted fans with witty public banter and loving social media exchanges, his silence was stark. No likes, no comments, no posts. Some suggested it was part of a coordinated strategy. Others believed he was quietly stepping away to preserve his own image and brand, one that's built on accessibility, charm, and transparency. If Ryan spoke up, it might drag him deeper into the controversy. If he remained silent, it might say everything. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled that Blake was furious. A source reportedly close to her inner circle told a journalist off the record she feels abandoned, not just by the media but by the people she thought would stand with her. This wasn't how she imagined this playing out. The pressure seemed to mount with each passing day. On the PR front, her team scrambled to reset the tone. They scheduled a quiet, low-key charity appearance. She was photographed volunteering with children at a nonprofit bookstore, smiling, humble, dressed down. The move was instantly labeled a reputation repair attempt. Some fans saw through it while others appreciated the effort. But overall, the damage had already been done. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni's legal team began pushing for full public access to all sealed communications related to the discovery process. This included emails, texts, and production notes, some of which may involve third-party celebrities, studio executives, and high-profile PR agencies. If approved, these documents could be explosive. And Blake's team knew it. Lawyers close to the case warned that if the judge ruled in favor of disclosure, it might trigger a wave of subpoenas far beyond just content creators, possibly even touching Ryan Reynolds' studio producers and agents who may have been privy to key behind-the-scenes decisions. Hollywood was holding its breath. There's an unwritten rule in the entertainment industry: bad press is survivable, but public betrayal is not. Blake's legal strategy, her public lashing out, and the perceived overreach had tipped her from misunderstood celebrity to possible industry liability. No one wanted to be the next name linked to her headline. And yet through it all Blake remained at least publicly composed. Paparazzi caught glimpses of her leaving court, arriving at events, even going on quiet walks with her children. No breakdowns, no televised interviews, no desperate press conference. But observers noted a new kind of tension in her face, a weary tightness around her eyes that wasn't there before. Whatever image she was trying to preserve, the toll was beginning to show. Still, some diehard fans refused to turn away. Everyone messes up, one viral TikTok user said. She's human, she's fighting for her name, she deserves to be heard. That video alone garnered millions of views, suggesting that despite everything, there was still a fraction of the public rooting for her to come back from the brink. But even those supporters couldn't deny the damage had been done. And the question now wasn't if her public standing had been hurt. It was how much further things would unravel and whether there was any path left to rebuild. At the end of the day, Blake Lively's situation is no longer just about one bold legal move or one dramatic Instagram post. It's about the larger question of what happens when public image, power, and privacy collide in real time. What began as a complicated legal dispute between two Hollywood figures has now spiraled into a much bigger story, one about control, influence, fear, and the unpredictable way in which public opinion can shift almost overnight. Blake has always been known for her precision, whether it's in red carpet moments, brand partnerships, or curated social media posts. But this moment has shown us what happens when control begins to slip, when even the most carefully crafted persona can start to unravel under the weight of real-world consequences and genuine public scrutiny. The reaction from fans, creators, and even fellow celebrities speaks volumes. People are no longer willing to accept the glossy surface without asking what lies beneath it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because this moment, uncomfortable and unpredictable as it is, reveals a deeper shift happening within the entertainment industry. A shift where fans are demanding accountability, where creators won't be silenced, where legal threats and red carpet smiles are no longer enough to quiet public curiosity. Blake Lively, once thought of as untouchable, now finds herself at a critical crossroads. Her every move is being watched, analyzed, and judged in real time by millions, and unlike a scripted TV series, there's no guaranteed happy ending. Will she find a way to rebuild her image? Possibly. Hollywood is, after all, famous for comebacks. But what's become clear is that any path forward must come not through control, but through clarity, humility, and truth. If Blake truly wants the world to hear her side, it has to be unfiltered, not curated, not legally shielded, but raw, honest, real. At the same time, the role of public voices, commentary channels, podcasters, online journalists is more important than ever. These individuals, many of whom work independently, have become central to the way stories are shared and understood. They aren't just gossip machines, they're documentarians, investigators, cultural translators. The attempt to silence or intimidate them has backfired, creating a rallying cry for transparency and free expression that stretches far beyond one celebrity. So where do we go from here? Blake Lively still has options, but they're shrinking by the day. With each subpoena, each cryptic post, each new court filing, the public's patience thins. The industry watches, the fans wait, and the story continues to evolve, not just about Blake, but about the power dynamics shaping Hollywood in 2025. One thing's for sure, the truth will come out, and when it does, we'll all be watching.